Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to update you on the oldest books on my TBR. So this has been an ongoing challenge for several years and I never do entirely well at it, but never mind. It's also one of the sub-TBRs of my TBR takedown challenge for this year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recap how I got on with this list in 2021 and then update you on what is on the list for 2022. In 2021 I had 15 books on this list and I didn't do very well. I read 2 of them and I DNF'd and unhauled 2 of them, which left 11 books that I didn't manage to get to. So the 2 that I did read, one was called Dark Night of the Soul by St John of the Cross, and one was called The Misbegotten by Katherine Webb. And I read both of those fairly early on in the year and then kind of just forgot about the list for the rest of the year. Like, some stuff did slip onto TBRs at certain points and then just got forgotten. And then I did have the 2 that I DNF'd as well, which were God's Big Picture by Vaughan, I think is the author, and Culture of Honour by Danny Silk. Those are both Christian non-fiction, which were problematic in various ways, so I unhauled them. So that left me 11 books on the list. Not a great success rate. So all of those books were books that I added to my Goodreads TBR in 2014 or 2015. So I started using Goodreads in 2014 when most of my books were in storage, and so I had a handful of books that weren't in storage at that point that went on that TBR straight away when I started using Goodreads, and then the majority of my books were added later in 2017 when I got all the books out of storage. And then the others were added in at some point in 2015 of books that I bought or was given in 2015. So they're not actually necessarily the books I've owned for the longest, they're just, in terms of my physical TBR, the ones that I can track back to the earliest point. So I've got those 11 books, which I'm going to go through in a minute. To round the number out a little bit, last year in 2021 I created a spreadsheet which tracked all of the ebooks that I own that I haven't read yet, and I realised that actually some of the ebooks have been on my TBR for longer. So in addition to those, I've got 7 ebooks that I got in 2012, which I think was the first time I had a smartphone, which is probably why probably where those books came from. Yeah, let's just go into what I've got left on my oldest books on my TBR list and we'll see how we get on with these books this year. So okay, first is Secret She Left Behind by Diane Chamberlain. This is the second book in a series and I reread the first book towards the end of 2021. Really need to get to this one. It's a contemporary, it's just over 500 pages, but I reread the first one really quickly, so it's not going to take me too long to get through. Part of the problem with this book is that I don't really love this type of book anymore, and I realised that more as I reread the first one, but I've had this so freaking long that I just want to see what happens in it, and then I have another couple of Diane Chamberlain books in storage at the moment that I will then decide when I get those books out of storage if I'm actually going to read them or not. That's the first one. Next on the list is Barnaby Rudge by Charles Dickens. This isn't actually the edition of that. I have another edition. This is from my Complete Works of Dickens, so this has got the Uncommercial Traveller in it as well in a bind up. So the individual edition of Barnaby Rudge is in storage and it's a really lovely old edition, even older than this one. So I will be reading from this one. For it to count on this list, I only need to read the Barnaby Rudge half, but this is going to feature on another one of my TBR lists because the money I used to buy this Complete Works set was from my nan for a birthday a couple of years ago. So I classed that as being gift. So this book will feature on that gift list as well. And for it to count for that, I have to read all of it. I've been wanting to get back into reading classics a bit more. So there's a few classics on this list that I'm hopefully going to get through this year. I really need to get to these books this year. Okay, next is Pals, Girls and Monty Bodkin by P.G. Wodehouse. So this is a collection of a couple of shorter works of his. Oh yeah, it's also got Bachelor's Anonymous in there as well. I've read a couple of his books from series in the past. These are, I think, standalone ones that I really love his writing. He's quite funny, so let's try and get to that one. Then we've got Enigma by Robert Harris. I think I've been putting this off because Robert Harris is a really hit or miss author for me. I've really loved a couple of his books and really hated a couple of others. I've read the first chapter of this a little while back and decided it was probably one I want to give a go to, so we're just gonna have to try and get to it, and if I can't get into it then I need to just DNF it and unhaul it. And I think maybe not for all of these books, but for some of these books, if I haven't read them by the end of this year, I think I just need to unhaul them, and maybe if I put that pressure on myself I'll actually read them. Next we have another historical fiction. This is called The Confessions of Catherine de Medici by C.W. Gortner. I've I've actually put this on TBRs a couple of times this year and then just not quite got to it. Again, I read the first chapter of this a little while ago and did really enjoy the writing style. It's historical fiction. I don't think it will be too difficult to read. I really just need to get on and read it. Then we've got one that I'm actually really keen to read, and I nearly did pick it up in December, but then the other non-fiction that I was reading just took a bit longer than I thought it would. So this is Sweets by Tim Richardson. It's a history of sweets and it sounds amazing. And so this is fairly high on my non-fiction TBR. I've got a couple of NetGalley arcs that I'm working through at the moment, but once I've read them, then this is next on the list to read for my non-fiction book, because I usually have one non-fiction book going on at a time. I really want to read this. I really just need to sit and read this because I think it's going to be super, super interesting. Okay, next we have a couple more classics. So we've got Ruth by Elizabeth Gaskell. I really enjoy Elizabeth Gaskell's writing. I've read quite a few of her books now and I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy this one because I've enjoyed all the others. I just need to get on and read it. I don't actually know what this one is about. An orphaned dressmaker's assistant. Ooh, and she's seduced. Ooh, yeah. Need to try and get to that one. And then we've got Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. I've heard really mixed things about Sir Walter Scott as a writer. I've never read anything by him and I own quite a few of his books, and this is a really lovely old edition that I got in a secondhand bookshop for £2 apparently in 2015. It's a good way to start giving his books a try. If I don't like it, I can just DNF it. It's not that big a deal. I just need to try it. And then we've got a book that I picked up because of the name of the author. Again in 2015 from a secondhand bookshop. This is The Golden Arrow by Mary Webb. Being a Webb myself, I always look out for books by other Webbs, and she was quite a prolific author in her time, and so I picked this up to try and see if I liked her books, and I've never got around to reading it. So I just really, really need to read it. And like several of these books, these old, lovely old style hardbacks, I just need to read them because they're so beautiful. And then we've got two books by the same author, and the reason I haven't got to these is because I need to reread, they're from a series and I need to reread the first one. So we've got The Long Dark Teatime of the Soul and The Salmon of Doubt by Douglas Adams. I really love the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. I did read Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which is the first one in the series. I read it a few years ago. It's a little bit more weird and complicated than Hitchhiker's Guide, and I didn't enjoy it as much, and so I think that's why I put off reading the rest of the series, and I found it a bit confusing. So I want to reread this one because I think I'll probably enjoy it more on a reread and pick more out of it, and also I don't really remember it well enough to carry on the series without rereading it and then get through the rest of the series. That is all the physical ones, so that's 11 books, physical books that are the oldest in my TBR. Then onto the digital ones, and there are 7 of these, and these I've all had as ebooks since 2012. A couple of familiar authors, again, going to come up in a minute. But the first one on this is Sherlock Holmes, The Complete Collection by Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is a massive ebook, which is probably why I haven't got around to it. And I think I had read bits of it when I first got it, but I just kind of put it down and never picked it up again. So this is next on my anthologies list, because I generally have one anthology going on at a time as well as a non-fiction. So when I finish the one that I'm currently reading, I'm going to pick this up. It will probably take me most of the year to get through it, which is why I want to get onto it soon. I'm pretty sure it's got the novels in there as well as the short stories. I've read some of the novels before, I've read some of the short stories before. I really enjoy detective fiction. I enjoy Sherlock Holmes as a character. I know I'm going to really enjoy this. I just need to make a start on it because I think I'm just intimidated by the size of it. So once I start it and read like one a day of the short stories, I will get through it quite quickly once I give it a go. Next, we have 2 books by Charles Dickens that I have in physical copy as well, but those are in storage. But I've got the ebooks, so I can just read them as ebooks for now, and I'll enjoy my lovely complete works and reread them again at some point because I love Charles Dickens, so I'm going to reread them at some point. So we've got Great Expectations and A Tale of Two Cities. As I say, I enjoy Dickens's writing. These are both books I've been meaning to get to for a really long time. I've got multiple editions of them both, so I just really do need to get on and read them. Then we've got 2 books that I'm not sure how soon I'll get to them. I do want to try, but they're a bit more complicated. So I've got 2 collections of short stories in Spanish. So we've got one called Spanish Tales for Beginners by E.C. Hills, and then we've got one called Stories by Foreign Authors Spanish, and I'm not sure who the author or editor of those is. In 2012, when I got these books, I just finished my teacher training, 2011, as a languages teacher, primarily as a French teacher. I was trying to teach myself Spanish so that I would be more employable as a languages teacher. Now I have no intention of being a languages teacher, but I'm still trying to learn Spanish. And so I downloaded these books at the time to help me learn a bit more of Spanish, and then just never quite got around to reading them. Other things got in the way, so yeah, I want to give them a try. How well I'll get on with them, I don't know, as I'm still trying to read books in other languages. I've predominantly been focusing on French the last couple of years, but it'd be nice to mix it up a bit and try and read a different language again and read some Spanish. We'll see. If I don't get to those, it's not the end of the world. They're kind of like the lowest priority of all of these, but I'd like to give it a try. So we'll see how we go. And then we've got The Personal Life of David Livingstone by William Garden Blaikie. So this is a biography of David Livingstone, who was quite an influential figure I think he was in the 19th century, 18th or 19th century. He was a missionary that went to Africa, but worked in a different way to a lot of the other missionaries, and it is remembered a lot more respectfully than a lot of other missionaries from that era. And I think I'd watched a documentary about him at some point in 2012 and thought, oh, let's find out more about him, and downloaded this biography and then never read it. So yeah, I'd like to give that one a try. And then the final book on this list is a book in French. It's Au Bonheur des Dames by Émile Zola. I'm just going to grab it. I have the English edition of this in paperback, but my copy's in storage, so I borrowed my mum's copy. This was adapted for TV. It must have been in 2012. This is the BBC tie-in edition of the English version called The Lady's Paradise. The TV series was called Paradise. Yeah, this TV edition was published in 2012. So I borrowed my mum's paperback as mine's in storage because I'm going to parallel read this like I did for Les Mis. And so this one I'm going to try and start fairly soon, and yeah, I'll read a couple of chapters in French and then read the same chapters in English and see how I get on with it. We'll see how I go. So that is 11 books from my physical TBR and 7 books from my ebook TBR that have been on my TBR for a really, really long time, and I'd like to try and read them this year. This is the first of several videos you're going to see over the next couple of weeks, maybe a bit longer, depends how quickly I get to film and edit them, breaking down some of the sublists of my TBR to help me tackle my TBR in 2022. I love the alliteration of that sentence. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know some of what the oldest books on your TBR are. I've actually realised there's quite a lot of classics on this list, and while I love reading classics, I tend to put them off because you have to be in the right frame of mind to read them. So yeah, I'd love to know like what are the genres that feature most on your oldest books on your TBR. Or if you just want to let me know that you've been here, as a lot of these books were classics, leave me some sort of antique-y kind of emoji, something to you that represents classics. Yeah, if you just want to let me know that you've been here and that you've made it this far in the video. You can also like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already and you'd like to hear more from me. And you can also follow me on my social media. All that information is listed for you in the description box below. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.